They called it the code, a literal operating system for reality. And they encoded it into every sacred site, every ancient text, every symbol on every continent on Earth. Egypt had it, the Mayans had it. Civilizations with no contact, no shared language, no way to compare notes across oceans and centuries. And they all buried the exact same code in the exact same places. But that's not a coincidence. That's not ancient wisdom. That's a transmission. Someone sent a message across 10,000 years of human history. And the moment you decode it, the moment you understand what they were all actually saying, you realize two things simultaneously. But first, this changes everything you think you know about what you are. Second, you were never supposed to find this. The code was buried on purpose, and I'm about to dig it up. But once you see it, once the pattern clicks into focus, you cannot unsee it. You will look at your life differently. You will look at reality differently. You will look at yourself differently. And the difference will not be subtle. Now, before we go any further, I need to tell you something. This is not going to be a conspiracy video. What happened to this knowledge is darker and more human than any conspiracy. And here's what I need you to sit with before we dive in. You have spent your entire life being told a specific story about what reality is, what you are, how the world works. That story was built by people who had specific reasons for telling it that way. And almost none of those reasons had anything to do with your freedom, your power, or your understanding of what you actually are. But the ancients told a different story. And I think they were onto something that we desperately need to hear right now. So let's go back. Way back. Further than you've probably gone before. Because to understand the code, to really understand it, you have to understand where it came from, and why every civilization on Earth arrived at the same place independently. I want to start with a question that genuinely bothered me for years, maybe you as well. How is it possible that civilizations with no contact, no shared language, no trade routes, no way to communicate across the distances and centuries that separated them, how is it possible that they all built the same things, believed the same things, and pointed at the same fundamental truths about the nature of reality? The pyramids. Egypt built them, but so did the Mayans, and the Aztecs, and ancient cultures across Asia, separated by oceans, building the same structures, oriented to the same celestial alignments, encoding the same mathematical ratios. The Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, sacred geometry. These mathematical patterns show up in Egyptian temples, in Greek architecture, in Hindu mandalas, in Islamic art, in Gothic cathedrals. The same patterns. Across cultures that had no contact with each other. The flood myth. Nearly every ancient culture on Earth has one. A great flood, a chosen survivor, a new beginning. Sumer, Egypt, India, Greece, Scandinavia, the Americas. The same story in cultures that couldn't possibly have shared it. You could explain any one of these as coincidence. You could explain two as interesting. But when you look at the full picture, when you lay out hundreds of ancient texts from every corner of human civilization, and look at what they're all saying underneath the surface, coincidence stops being a satisfying explanation. Something else is happening. And here's what I think that something is. These civilizations weren't inventing philosophies. They weren't creating stories to comfort themselves in the dark. They were observing. They were looking at reality, deeply, carefully, over generations. And they were recording what they saw. And what they all saw, what they all independently arrived at, is what I'm calling the unified code, the operating system of reality, hidden in plain sight inside every sacred text ever written. And it comes down to three words that sound simple and are anything but. Everything is energy. Everything is connected. And you, your consciousness, your words, your attention, your intention, are not observing that energy. You are generating it. Now I know how that sounds. I know you might be sitting there thinking, that's a nice idea, that's a pleasant spiritual concept, good for meditation retreats and self-help books. But stay with me, because what I'm about to show you is not a spiritual concept. It's the conclusion that every serious attempt to understand reality, ancient and modern, has arrived at. And the implications of it are so radical, so fundamentally threatening to the way our world is organized, that there are very good reasons why it never made it into your education. Let's go deeper. Here's something they taught you in school that I want you to reconsider. They taught you that matter is solid, that the chair you're sitting on is a physical object, that your body is a physical thing, that reality is made of stuff, hard, fixed, measurable stuff that exists independently of you observing it. That's the story, and it's wrong. Not kind of wrong. Fundamentally, completely wrong. And we've known it was wrong for almost 100 years. Here's what physics actually tells us when you follow it all the way down to the bottom. If you take any piece of matter, any object, any substance, including your own body, and you break it down past atoms, past protons and neutrons, past quarks, past every level of subatomic structure we've identified, what you find at the most fundamental level is not stuff, it's not particles, it's not even energy in any conventional sense. What you find is vibration, oscillating fields, waves of probability, potential that only collapses into a definite state when it's observed. String theory, one of the most advanced frameworks in modern physics, proposes that the most fundamental constituents of reality are not particles, but vibrating strings of energy. Tiny one-dimensional filaments whose different vibrational modes produce all the different particles and forces we observe. Reality, at its most fundamental level, is not made of things. It's made of vibration. Now sit with the implications of that for a second, because here's what the ancients said. The Hindu concept of Nada Brahma, the universe is sound, not metaphorically, literally. The ancient Hindus believed reality was created from and sustained by vibration. Their entire system of mantra was built on this understanding. Specific sounds, specifically arranged, producing specific effects on the fabric of reality. The Egyptian concept of Heka, often translated as magic, but more accurately understood as the creative power of sound and spoken intention. The ancient Egyptians believed that spoken words, properly understood and properly used, could interact with the creative force underlying reality. Their priests were not performing rituals for their own sake. They were operating what they understood to be sound technology. The Book of Genesis. In the beginning was the Word, not the thought, not the plan, the Word. Creation through spoken vibration. The Pythagoreans, ancient Greek philosophers, built their entire cosmology around what they called the music of the spheres, the idea that celestial bodies move in mathematical ratios that produce a cosmic symphony, that the universe is fundamentally musical, fundamentally vibrational. And now modern string theory says reality is made of vibrating strings. These are not the same statement dressed up differently. I want to be careful here. The ancients were working from observation, intuition, and philosophical reasoning, not from particle accelerators and mathematical proofs. But the convergence is striking enough that it's worth taking seriously. Every ancient civilization believed reality was fundamentally vibrational in nature, and the most advanced framework in modern physics suggests they were pointing at something real. Now here's where it gets personal. Here's where this stops being abstract. If reality is fundamentally vibrational, if everything is energy in a state of vibration, then you are not a solid body moving through a solid world. You are a field of energy in a state of vibration, moving through a field of energy in a state of vibration. And fields interact. Your emotional state is not just a feeling in your head. It's a frequency your entire being is broadcasting into the field around you. The HeartMath Institute has documented that your heart generates an electromagnetic field, extending several feet in every direction. A field that carries information, that affects the people around you, that responds to your emotional state. You are not separate from your environment. You are in constant energetic communication with it. The ancients knew this, not through measurement, through observation, through centuries of paying attention to how human consciousness interacts with reality in ways that our purely materialist framework has struggled to account for. And this understanding, that you are an energetic being in constant interaction with an energetic universe, is the foundation of the unified code. Everything else builds from here. Now we go to the second principle, and this one is where the ancient wisdom and modern science converge in a way that should genuinely disturb your comfortable assumptions about reality. Everything is connected. Not philosophically, not poetically, physically, measurably, in ways that have been demonstrated in laboratory conditions and that still don't have a fully satisfying explanation within our conventional understanding of physics. Quantum entanglement. When two particles interact, they become entangled. Their quantum states become correlated. And then, no matter how far apart you separate them, no matter if you put one on Earth and one at the edge of the galaxy, measuring one instantly affects the other. Not eventually. Not after a signal travels between them at the speed of light. Instantly. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. He found it deeply troubling. He spent years trying to find an explanation that preserved his conviction that nothing could influence anything faster than light. He never found one. Because the implication, the conclusion that quantum mechanics keeps pointing at, is that at some fundamental level, the particles that appear to be separate are not actually separate. They remain part of a unified whole. The appearance of separation is a feature of our perception, not a feature of reality. Now let's go to what the ancients said about this. The Hindu concept of Indra's net, an ancient metaphor describing the universe as an infinite net, with a jewel at each vertex. Each jewel reflects all the other jewels, and those reflections contain reflections of all the other jewels. Infinite interconnection. Everything reflecting everything else. No part of the net existing independently of the whole. The Hermetic principle, as above, so below. As within, so without. As the universe, so the soul. The pattern that exists at the largest scale of reality also exists at the smallest. The macrocosm and the microcosm are the same structure expressed at different scales. Because they're not separate systems, they're one system. The Taoist concept of the Tao, the invisible underlying unity that all apparent opposites emerge from and return to. Yin and Yang are not enemies. They are complementary expressions of a single unified force. Separation into opposites is how the one expresses itself as many. But beneath the many is always the one. Buddhist interdependence. Nothing exists independently. Every phenomenon arises in dependence on other phenomena. There is no isolated, self-existing thing anywhere in reality. Everything is in a relationship of mutual, arising with everything else. The Kabbalistic concept of Ein Sof, the infinite, boundless, undifferentiated unity that underlies all apparent multiplicity. The tree of life is not a map of separate things. It's a map of how one thing expresses itself as many while remaining fundamentally one. Every one of these traditions, separated by geography, language, culture, centuries, arrived at the same metaphysical conclusion. Reality is fundamentally unified. Separation is appearance. Connection is the underlying truth. And quantum entanglement keeps pointing in the same direction. Now here's why this matters for your life. Here's why this is not just an interesting philosophical discussion. If everything is connected, if you are not separate from the field of reality around you, but in constant interaction with it, then the idea that you are a passive observer of circumstances happening to you is not just psychologically limiting, it's physically inaccurate. You are not watching a movie. You are in the movie. You are part of the movie. You are, in a very real sense, generating the movie. Which brings us to the third principle. And this is the one that the ancient world considered the most dangerous truth of all. I want to tell you about an experiment that broke physics. It's called the Double-Slit Experiment. And it's been replicated thousands of times. It consistently produces results that have no satisfying explanation within our conventional understanding of reality. Here's what happens. Scientists shoot particles, electrons, photons, at a screen with two slits in it. Behind the screen is a detector that records where the particles land. When no one observes which slit the particles go through, they behave like waves. They go through both slits simultaneously. They create an interference pattern on the detector, the overlapping ripple pattern you'd expect from waves. This makes sense if particles are actually waves of probability, existing in multiple states simultaneously until something forces them into one definite state. But here's where it gets strange. When scientists set up a detector to observe which slit each particle goes through, when they measure which path the particle takes, the interference pattern disappears. The particles start behaving like particles. They go through one slit or the other. They make two distinct bands on the detector. The act of observation changes the behavior of the particle. Same particles. Same setup. Same experiment. The only variable is whether a measuring device is observing which path the particles take. And the result changes completely. Physicists have spent decades trying to explain this without concluding that consciousness affects physical reality, and they keep running into the same wall. The most honest summary of what this experiment demonstrates, offered by multiple physicists, including some of the greatest minds in the field, is that physical reality does not exist in a definite state until it is observed. The universe, at the quantum level, appears to exist as a field of possibility. And consciousness, observation, attention, measurement, collapses that possibility into a specific reality. Now, I want to be precise here. The interpretation of quantum mechanics is genuinely contested. Physicists disagree about exactly what this means. What it doesn't mean is that you can wish for a parking space, and the universe will produce one. The relationship between quantum phenomena and the macroscopic experience of daily life is complex and not fully understood. But the philosophical implication, that consciousness plays a role in the nature of reality rather than simply being a passive observer of it, is one that serious physicists have wrestled with for a century. And it's an implication that the ancient world took as foundational. The Upanishads, among the oldest philosophical texts in human history, state that the universe arises from and within consciousness. Not that consciousness arises within the universe. The other way around. Consciousness is primary. Matter is secondary. The Hermetic texts. The all is mind. The universe is mental. Reality is, at its most fundamental level, a mental phenomenon, a product of consciousness rather than the container of it. The Buddhist concept of mind only, Yogacara philosophy, which argues that what we experience as external reality is inseparable from the mind that perceives it. Not that the external world doesn't exist, but that the relationship between mind and world is far more intimate and bidirectional than our conventional understanding suggests. Plato argued that the physical world is a shadow of a more fundamental realm of pure form, that what we perceive with our senses is a downstream reflection of something more primary. And now quantum mechanics keeps producing results that physicists describe, reluctantly, carefully, with enormous qualification, as suggesting that the observer is not separate from the observed. That consciousness is not an accidental byproduct of a physical universe that existed first and generated minds later. That the relationship between mind and reality is more fundamental, more bidirectional, more strange than the materialist story we've been told. The ancients believed this not as a philosophical preference, but as a practical reality they organized their entire lives around. They developed practices, meditation, prayer, ritual, mantra, sacred geometry, specifically designed to work with this understanding, to deliberately shape consciousness as a way of interacting with reality. And now we arrive at the part where all three principles, everything is energy, everything is connected, consciousness creates reality, come together into the code itself. This is where it gets dangerous. Because if reality is fundamentally vibrational, if you are an energetic being in constant interaction with an energetic field, if consciousness plays a role in shaping the reality it observes, then the question becomes, what is the interface? What is the technology through which your consciousness interacts with the field? The ancients had one answer. Across every culture, every tradition, every sacred text, the word, not words as communication, words as technology, words as frequency, words as the operating interface between your consciousness and the quantum field of reality. In the beginning was the word, that's Genesis, creation through spoken vibration. The Egyptian concept of Heka, the creative power of spoken intention, was so fundamental to their understanding of reality that they believed the universe itself was created through a divine spoken word. Their priests trained for years, decades, in the precise pronunciation of specific sounds. Not because they were being ritualistic, because they believed, based on their understanding of how reality works, that properly spoken sounds could interact with the creative force underlying existence. The Sanskrit tradition. Sanskrit is one of the most precisely engineered languages in human history. Linguists and scholars have noted that Sanskrit sounds were selected and arranged with extraordinary precision. The ancient Hindu understanding was that specific sounds, mantras, produced specific effects on consciousness and on reality, not metaphorically, literally, as a form of sonic technology. The Hebrew Kabbalistic tradition holds that the Hebrew alphabet is not an arbitrary collection of symbols assigned to sounds. Each letter has a specific numerical value, a specific vibrational signature, and a specific creative power. The Torah was not written to tell stories. It was written as a frequency code. The letters themselves are considered the technology through which creation operates. The Pythagoreans, who believed the universe was fundamentally mathematical and musical, understood that specific numerical ratios produce specific effects on consciousness and reality. Their concept of the music of the spheres was not poetry. It was their understanding of how the fundamental vibrational structure of the cosmos operated. Now here's the connection that your everyday experience confirms regardless of what you believe about any of this. You know that words affect you, not just their meaning, their sound, their rhythm, their emotional weight. Poetry moves people who don't know why poetry moves them. Music changes your state in ways that defy purely intellectual explanation. Certain voices calm you instantly. Certain tones put you on edge before you've even processed what was said. This is not imagination. This is your nervous system responding to frequency. And if your nervous system, which is electrochemical, which operates through electrical signals, which is fundamentally a frequency processing system, responds to the vibrational content of sound and language, then the idea that your words are doing something more than conveying information starts to make a different kind of sense. Dr. Masaru Emoto spent years photographing water crystals exposed to different words, music, and intentions. When you look at his photographs, water exposed to words like love and gratitude forming perfect geometric crystals, water exposed to words like hate and fear, forming chaotic, broken structures. It is viscerally compelling. His work has not been replicated under strict controlled scientific conditions, and the scientific community remains skeptical. But it raises a question worth sitting with. If water responds to frequency, and there is solid science establishing that sound creates structure in water through cymatics, and you are 70% water, what are your words doing inside your body? Not as proven fact, as a question, as something worth taking seriously enough to examine your relationship with the words you use every day. Because whether or not the mechanism is exactly what Emoto proposed, the ancient world's unanimous conclusion was this: words are not neutral, words are frequency, and frequency shapes reality. The Hopi tradition holds that sound, specifically ceremonial chanting, maintains the balance and order of the physical world, not as metaphor, as literal function. The ceremonies are not celebrations of what exists. They are understood to be active participants in sustaining what exists. Indigenous traditions around the world treat language as sacred not because they're being poetic, but because their understanding of the relationship between sound and reality made casual, unconscious speech genuinely dangerous. Words mattered. Not just what they communicated, but what they created. And every major wisdom tradition on earth, without exception, contains some version of the teaching that what you speak, what you declare, what you consistently affirm, shapes your experienced reality. Jesus in the Gospels, life and death are in the power of the tongue. The Buddha in the Dhammapada. What you think, you become. What you speak plants seeds in the field of your life. The Hermetic texts. Thoughts and words are creative forces that interact with the mental substance of the universe. The Upanishads. The universe arises from consciousness expressed through vibration, through sound. And then there's the I am principle. This one shows up in every tradition I've studied. And I think it's the most important piece of the entire code. When Moses encounters God in Exodus and asks for a name, who shall I say sent me? The answer is not a name. It's a state of being. I am that I am. In Hebrew, this is Ihya Asher Ihya. I am that I am. Pure, present tense being, existence aware of itself. But here's what's extraordinary. 3,000 years before Exodus, the ancient Egyptian texts contain an almost identical phrase, Nuk Punuk, I am that I am, used by Osiris to declare the nature of divine creative consciousness. The Hindu tradition contains Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. I am the ultimate creative consciousness underlying all of reality. The Sufi tradition contains Anal-Haq, I am the truth, I am the real, used by the mystic Al-Hallaj to express the realization of union with divine reality. The same declaration, across traditions separated by millennia and continents, and what they're all pointing at is this. I am is not a statement about your personal identity. I am is an invocation of creative consciousness itself. When you say I am, you are speaking from the deepest level of what you actually are, consciousness itself, and you are declaring reality into being. Every time you say I am followed by something, you are not describing yourself. You are instructing the field. I am broke, I am sick, I am stuck, I am not enough, or I am abundant, I am healthy, I am sovereign. I am the intelligence that creates my experience. The ancients didn't see these as affirmations. They saw them as declarations, as frequency commands, as the most direct interface available between your consciousness and the creative power of the unified field. And they all, every tradition, every culture, across the entire span of recorded human wisdom, they all said the same thing about this. Your words are creating your reality. Whether you know it or not, whether you intend it or not, every day, with every sentence, you are broadcasting a frequency into the field, and the field is responding. The only question is whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. If this knowledge was so widespread, if it was embedded in the texts, the temples, the languages, the rituals of every major civilization on Earth, how did we lose it? I want to be honest with you here. The answer is not simple, and it's not a single villain. The loss of this knowledge happened over centuries through a combination of forces, some deliberate, some simply human, some tragic accidents of history, some conscious decisions by people with specific reasons for wanting populations less aware of their own creative power. Let's start with what we can document. The ancient world understood knowledge as something that needed to be protected. Not because it was elitist, but because it was dangerous in the wrong hands and incomprehensible without proper context. The mystery schools, in Egypt, in Greece, in the various esoteric traditions, didn't hide their knowledge out of exclusivity. They hid it because they understood that fragmentary knowledge, half the code without the foundation to understand it, was more dangerous than no knowledge at all. This protective impulse created a vulnerability. When the institutions that held the knowledge fell, and they all fell eventually, the knowledge was not widely distributed enough to survive. The Library of Alexandria is the most famous example. Whatever actually caused its destruction, and historians debate this, the effect was the permanent loss of an enormous body of accumulated ancient knowledge. Texts that no longer exist. Understandings that died with the scholars who held them. The transition from oral to written culture, while preserving much, also lost much. Because the ancient understanding was that certain knowledge couldn't be written down, not because of secrecy, but because the transmission required direct experience, direct transmission from teacher to student. You can write the words of a mantra. You cannot write the understanding of how to use it. That required a living teacher. When the teachers died, the living understanding often died with them. Then there's the flattening effect of institutionalized religion. When the wisdom traditions of the ancient world became organized religions, with hierarchies, orthodoxies, and political interests, the esoteric core of the teaching was often suppressed in favor of the exoteric form, the rituals without the understanding of what the rituals were for, the words without the understanding of why words matter, the story without the technology embedded in the story. This is not a conspiracy. This is what institutions do. They standardize, they simplify, they make the complex accessible to large populations, and in doing so, they inevitably lose something of the depth and precision of the original understanding. Then there's the modern era, the scientific revolution, which gave us extraordinary gifts, medicine, technology, an understanding of the physical world that previous generations couldn't have imagined, also came with a philosophical commitment to materialism that, in its most extreme form, declared that anything not measurable by current instruments was not real. Consciousness, energy, the kind of subtle interactions the ancient world took seriously, simply defined out of existence as superstition. And then there's education. The curriculum that most people in the modern world receive does not include philosophy of mind, does not include the history of consciousness studies, does not include the esoteric traditions of the ancient world, does not include the implications of quantum mechanics for our understanding of the relationship between observer and observed. It includes what's useful for producing people who can function in an industrial economy, which is not the same thing as what's useful for producing people who understand what they are. Edward Bernays, the man who essentially invented modern public relations and advertising, wrote extensively about the science of shaping public consciousness through language and repetition. His insight? That populations could be managed through carefully crafted linguistic environments was not new. The ancient world understood this. What was new was the industrialization of it. the deployment of mass media to create linguistic environments that shape consciousness at scale. Whether this was coordinated suppression or simply the inevitable result of systems optimizing for control, the effect is the same: a population that doesn't know what it is. That has been given a story about reality. Materialist, reductionist, consciousness is an accident that makes them maximally dependent on external systems and minimally aware of their own creative power. The code was not destroyed. It's still in the texts. It's still in the traditions. It's still in the physics. It just got buried under several centuries of stories that pointed in a different direction. And right now, in this particular moment in history, those stories are cracking. The distractions are getting louder, but also less convincing. People are starving for something that feels true in a way that the official story hasn't felt true for a long time. And the code is still here, waiting. Let me give you the complete picture now. The unified code as the ancients understood it. 5 principles. Every major civilization arrived at all 5, independently. Principle 1. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. This is the most radical reversal of conventional thinking in the entire code. And it's where modern physics and ancient wisdom converge most uncomfortably. The conventional story: the universe existed first. Stars, galaxies, matter, energy, billions of years of physical processes, and eventually, accidentally, consciousness emerged. Life appeared, minds developed, and those minds now observe the universe that produced them. The ancient story, and the story that quantum mechanics keeps gesturing toward. Consciousness is primary, not an accident, not a byproduct, the ground of being, the field in which reality appears rather than the thing that appears in it. The Upanishads. Consciousness is Brahman. Brahman is everything. Therefore, everything is consciousness. The Hermetic texts, the all is mind. The universe is a mental phenomenon. The Buddhist tradition. The nature of mind is the nature of reality. They are not separate. And Max Planck, the physicist who gave us quantum mechanics, whose work established the foundation of modern physics, said in a 1931 interview, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness." He was not making a religious statement. He was following the implications of the physics he had spent his life developing. If consciousness is fundamental, if you are not a mind inside a universe but a node of consciousness through which the universe is experiencing itself, then you are not a passive participant in your life. You are, in some sense, that we're still working out the details of, the author of it. Principle 2. Everything is one energy expressing as many forms. The separation you experience between yourself and other people, between yourself and the world, between yourself and what you want, is a feature of your perception, not a feature of reality. Quantum entanglement demonstrates that particles which have interacted remain connected regardless of distance. What happens to one instantaneously affects the other. The separation between them is apparent, not fundamental. The Hindu concept of Maya, often translated as illusion, doesn't mean the physical world doesn't exist. It means the apparent separation within the physical world is not the deepest truth about it. Beneath the apparent multiplicity is an underlying unity. The Taoist concept of the Tao, the undifferentiated wholeness from which all apparent opposites emerge. Heaven and earth, yin and yang, self and other. These are expressions of one thing, not two different things interacting. The Kabbalistic concept of Ein Sof, the boundless, infinite, undifferentiated unity that underlies all of created reality. The tree of life is not a map of separate things. It's a map of how one thing expresses itself as many while remaining fundamentally one. And the practical implication. Your sense of isolation, of separation, of being fundamentally alone in a universe that doesn't care about you. That experience is real. But according to the ancient understanding, and according to the physics, it is not accurate. It is the experience of consciousness that has forgotten its own nature. Principle 3. Frequency determines experience. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. More precisely, you attract what you are broadcasting. If everything is energy in a state of vibration, if you are a field of energy in constant interaction with the field of reality around you, then your dominant vibrational state, your consistent emotional frequency, is the signal you're sending into that field. Like frequencies resonate. This is basic physics. Tuning forks at the same frequency vibrate together, even without contact. This is not metaphor. It is a physical phenomenon called sympathetic resonance. The ancient world took this as a principle of reality. Your inner state, your emotional frequency, your dominant beliefs, your consistent thoughts, these are not just private psychological phenomena. They are energetic broadcasts, and the energetic field of your life responds to them. This is what every major wisdom tradition means when it talks about inner work. Not self-improvement as ego project. Reality calibration. Deliberately raising and stabilizing your frequency so that what you're broadcasting into the field corresponds to what you want to be experiencing. Meditation, prayer, mantra, ritual, sacred geometry. These are not empty traditions. They are technologies for managing frequency, for deliberately shaping the vibrational state you're broadcasting into the unified field. Principle 4. Words and sound are the technology of creation. We've already gone deep on this, but let me crystallize it into the single most practical implication. You speak approximately 16,000 words a day. If words are frequency, if the sounds you produce interact with the vibrational field of your body and the field of reality around you, then you are generating 16,000 frequency commands every single day. Most people generate those commands unconsciously, repeating the stories they were given about who they are and what's possible. Broadcasting limitation, scarcity, and fear into the field, not because they want to, but because nobody taught them that it matters. The ancients treated language as technology, as something you learn to use deliberately, precisely, with full awareness of what you were generating. Their sacred languages were engineered for this. Their rituals were practice in conscious creation through sound. You don't need Sanskrit or Hebrew to apply this principle. You need consciousness, awareness, the deliberate choice to pay attention to what you're broadcasting 16,000 times a day. Principle 5. Consciousness is the only cause. Everything else is effect. This is the most confronting principle, and the most liberating. Your external circumstances are not the cause of your experience. They are the effect of your frequency. They are the field reflecting your dominant vibrational state back to you as physical reality. This does not mean that difficult circumstances are your fault. The relationship between individual consciousness and collective reality is complex and not one of simple individual causation. You did not choose to be born into poverty or trauma or injustice. These are real, they matter. But the ancient understanding, and the understanding that every serious student of consciousness has arrived at across human history, is that your relationship to your circumstances is more available to you than your circumstances themselves. That your inner state, your frequency, is the primary variable you can actually affect, and that affecting it affects everything downstream. This is what Jesus meant by the kingdom of heaven is within you. Not in a building, not in the future, within you, now. As the creative power of your consciousness. This is what the Buddha meant by mind is everything. Not that the physical world is unimportant. That mind is the primary variable, the first cause. This is what the Hermeticists meant by as within, so without. Your inner world is not separate from your outer world. It is generating your outer world. 5 principles. 1 code. The operating system of reality as the ancient world understood it. And now the most important question: what do you do with it? This is where philosophy becomes power, where understanding becomes transformation, where the code stops being interesting and starts being useful. 6 practices, built from the ancient understanding, applicable in your life, starting today. Practice 1. The frequency audit. For the next 24 hours, I want you to track your dominant emotional state every single hour. Not your thoughts, your feelings, your emotional frequency. Set an alarm on your phone. Every hour, stop for 30 seconds and honestly assess: where am I vibrating right now? Am I in a state of fear, lack, and contraction? Or in a state of openness, possibility, and expansion? Don't judge what you find. The ancients didn't approach inner work through self-condemnation. They approached it through clear seeing. You cannot change what you cannot see. And most people are so habituated to their dominant frequency that they don't even realize they're generating it. The frequency audit is about building awareness. Because awareness is the first move. The moment you can observe your frequency, you have the beginning of the ability to change it. After 24 hours, you will have a picture of your dominant vibrational state that is more honest than any story you've told yourself about who you are. And from that honest picture, real work becomes possible. Practice 2. The ancient language protocol. Every morning before you touch your phone, before the world's frequency gets into your field, you are going to speak 3 declarations out loud, not in your head, out loud. Because the ancient understanding is that sound requires physical expression to fully interact with the physical field. Thought is preparation. Spoken word is activation. The 3 declarations: I am the consciousness in which my reality appears. I am the frequency that determines my experience. I am sovereign in my creation. You are not saying these because they make you feel better. You are saying these because, if the ancient understanding is even partially correct, you are operating the oldest technology on Earth. You are using the I am declaration that every major wisdom tradition on Earth encoded into its deepest teachings, applied to the specific understanding of your own creative power. Do this for 30 days before touching your phone. Notice what changes. Practice 3. The vocabulary detox. This builds directly on the ancient understanding that words are frequency technology, that what you speak consistently shapes your experienced reality. Over 7 days, you are going to systematically audit and replace the frequency of your daily language. Days 1 and 2. Eliminate the word trying. Every time you catch yourself saying, I'm trying, stop. Trying encodes the frequency of effort without result. Replace it with I am or I am becoming. I am becoming healthier. I am choosing this. Present tense. Active. No failure coded in. Days 3 and 4. Eliminate I can't and I need. These broadcast the frequency of powerlessness and scarcity. Replace I can't afford that with I'm choosing to invest elsewhere. Replace I need more money with I'm open to greater financial flow. You are not lying to yourself. You are choosing which frequency you broadcast into the field. Days 5 and 6. Eliminate always and never when applied to yourself. I always fail. I never have enough. These are frequency locks. They tell the field this is permanent. This is who I am forever. Replace with I'm learning and I'm expanding, both present and open. Day 7. Eliminate, but when it follows a positive statement. I want to succeed, but I'm scared cancels the success before it can form. Replace with and I want to succeed and I'm working through fear. Both things get to be true. No cancellation, no self-sabotage. This is not positive thinking. Positive thinking is surface level. This is frequency management. This is the practical application of the ancient understanding that your words are creating your reality 16,000 times a day. Practice 4. The cymatics meditation. The ancient world understood that specific geometric patterns encode specific frequencies. That sacred geometry is not decoration. It is frozen sound, crystallized frequency. There is now science, cymatics, that demonstrates this directly. When you run specific frequencies through a medium like sand or water, specific geometric patterns emerge. The flower of life, Metatron's cube. The patterns the ancients put on every sacred site on Earth. They appear spontaneously in response to specific sound frequencies. For this practice, I want you to spend 5 minutes looking at sacred geometry, the flower of life, the Sri Yantra, the seed of life, not analyzing it, not thinking about it, just looking at it while in a relaxed state. The ancient understanding is that focusing your consciousness on these patterns tunes your field to the frequency they encode. Whether or not you accept that framing, the practice of deliberately resting your attention on complex geometric patterns while in a calm state has been shown to produce measurable effects on brainwave patterns. It is, at minimum, a powerful way to shift your frequency away from the anxious, scattered state that modern life generates by default. Practice 5. The Unified Field Practice. This is the master practice, the one every ancient tradition built their entire system around, the one every mystic across every culture pointed at as the direct experience of what the code is describing. It is very simple and very difficult. Sit somewhere quiet, close your eyes, take several slow breaths, and then do one thing. Feel, not think, feel, that the boundary between where you end and where the room begins is not as solid as it usually seems. Let your attention soften. Let the sense of being a separate, bounded object inside a world relax, even slightly. Don't try to make this happen. Just stop insisting on the opposite. The Sufis called this fana, the dissolution of the separate self in the divine reality. The Buddhists called it sunyata, the experience of the empty, boundless nature of awareness itself. The Hindus called it samadhi, the union of individual consciousness with universal consciousness. The Hermeticists called it the great work, the alchemical transformation of the separate self into the unified whole. These are different maps of the same territory, and every tradition that produced them claimed that even a brief glimpse of this territory, even a few seconds of genuinely experiencing the unified nature of reality, changes something permanently, not as a philosophical understanding, but as a direct knowing, a recognition. You are not doing this to become spiritual. You are doing this to remember something you forgot, something the noise of modern life is specifically calibrated to make you forget. Start with 60 seconds a day, that's all. 60 seconds of deliberately releasing the conviction that you are a separate object in a world of other separate objects. And notice what changes. Practice 6. The Evening Frequency Reset. Most people end their day by falling asleep in a state of anxiety, scrolling-induced overstimulation, or mental rehearsal of tomorrow's problems. Whatever state you fall asleep in programs your subconscious for the night. And the subconscious is running approximately 95% of your behavior, your reactions, your automatic responses to life. The ancient world took the transition into sleep extremely seriously. Many traditions had specific rituals for this transition, precisely because they understood that the sleeping mind is maximally receptive to programming, positive or negative. Here's the practice. Before sleep, find 3 moments from your day where you felt genuinely alive. Not happy necessarily, alive, in contact with reality, present. These can be tiny. The first sip of coffee, a moment of laughter, a conversation that felt real, a song that moved you, sunlight on your face. Close your eyes and relive each one for 30 seconds. Not remember, relive. Let your body return to the feeling, the sensation, the aliveness of that moment. Your nervous system does not fully distinguish between a vividly remembered experience and a current one. When you relive a moment with genuine feeling, you are reactivating the neural patterns, the biochemistry, the electromagnetic state of that moment. You are re-experiencing it, and you are programming your subconscious to find more of it. This is what the ancient world meant by gratitude practice, not a list of things you're thankful for as a cognitive exercise. A deliberate return to the frequency of aliveness before surrendering to the most receptive state your consciousness enters every night. Do this for 30 days. The effect on your baseline frequency, on what you're broadcasting into the field of your daily life, will be measurable. Let me bring this home. You came into this video living inside a story about reality, a story that was given to you by a culture, an education system, and a media environment that had specific reasons for framing reality the way they did. That story says you are a physical body in a physical world. That consciousness is an accident. That you are subject to forces beyond your control. That what happens to you is determined primarily by luck, circumstance, and forces outside yourself. That story makes you manageable, dependent, small. The ancients told a different story, not because they were naive, not because they lacked intelligence or rigor or the desire to understand reality accurately, but because they were paying attention to something that the modern world has largely stopped paying attention to: the interior dimension of reality, the relationship between consciousness and the world it inhabits, the nature of what you actually are beneath the story you've been told about yourself. And every one of them, separated by oceans and centuries and languages that never touched, arrived at the same conclusion. You are not a body that somehow developed consciousness. You are consciousness that is temporarily expressing as a body. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe becoming aware of itself at this particular point in space and time. You are not subject to reality. You are, in ways that are more literal than comfortable, participating in the creation of your reality, through your frequency, through your words, through the consistent vibrational state you broadcast into the unified field every moment of every day. The ancient code is not mysticism. It is not superstition. It is not wishful thinking. It is the most consistent finding in the history of human attempts to understand the nature of reality. And it is converging, slowly, uncomfortably, with enormous resistance from the institutions that benefit from you not knowing it, with what our most advanced physics keeps pointing toward. Everything is energy, everything is connected, and you are not watching this happen. You are happening. The code was never lost. It was scattered across 10,000 texts, 1,000 traditions, 100 languages, buried under centuries of noise, and you just put it back together. Now the only question is what you do with it. Because here's what the ancients would tell you if they could. Knowing the code is not the same as living it. Understanding that words are frequency is not the same as speaking deliberately. Knowing that your consciousness participates in creating your reality is not the same as actually taking responsibility for what you're creating. The knowledge is the beginning, not the end. The work is in the practice. The daily practice of frequency awareness, of conscious language, of deliberately returning to the unified understanding of what you are, of treating your inner state, your consistent vibrational frequency, as the primary variable in your life rather than a byproduct of external circumstances. That is what the ancient world built entire civilizations around. That is what the mystery schools protected and transmitted. That is what every mystic across every tradition spent their lives pointing at. Not a belief system, a practice, a lived relationship with the creative power of your own consciousness. And it has always started, with a single decision. The decision to stop living unconsciously inside a story that was given to you by people with interests different from yours. And to start living deliberately inside the truth that every civilization on Earth independently discovered and encoded into their most sacred understanding of reality. You are the field. You are the frequency. You are the word. And reality, as it always has, is listening. If something in this video woke something up in you, if you felt that recognition, that remembering, that sense that you knew this before you ever heard it spoken, I want you to honor that. Drop a comment and tell me which principle hit you the hardest. I'm reading every single one, not casually, intentionally. Your words help shape what comes next. And if you've been wondering where I've been, yeah, I know. It's been quiet. I didn't disappear. I've been building. Behind closed doors, I've been preparing something much bigger for 2026. Deeper research, more precise frameworks, and pieces I wasn't ready to release until they were fully formed. What's coming next makes this feel like the prologue it was always meant to be. So here's what I want from you. Subscribe, because the next phase starts soon. And in the comments, tell me what you want to see next. What do you want decoded? What do you want explained? What feels just out of reach that you're ready to understand? We're not just continuing. We're activating something bigger. Comment MVP below if you made it this far. Thank you. See you in the next one.